So just know we are incredibly thankful that you took time out of your day and put yourselves first in developing your own professional acumen. And we certainly want to thank our incredible partner, not just today, but for being an incredible partner throughout the year, the Touring Career Workshop. Certainly these educational opportunities would not be possible if it were not for partners like TCW. So thank you all so much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the hosts for today, Mark and John. Take it away.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Again, thank you to you and the CMAs for letting us do this and partner up with you. For those of you that don't know, TCW, Touring Career Workshop, at our core, we're a nonprofit organization that wants to help industry professionals, entertainment industry professionals, in the human resources aspect of our lives, which when we started as an industry really wasn't thought about. And our topic today, touring in balance, is something that also wasn't talked about. Most of us have heard the old sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that's what it was when you were a roadie. And that's changed a lot over the last few years, especially. And there's more talks on tour buses now and at shows about houses and health insurance and family. And it's a very positive thing, but it does cause stress, and how we manage that is a key thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit here and introduce our panelists, and we'll get going with some questions. Again, my name is Mark Steinwachs. I'm the general manager of Bandit Lights. I spent about 12 years on tour buses, and then came off the road and started as the shop foreman at Bandit and into the general manager position. And one of my primary jobs is to put road crew out on tours and shows. And I will turn it over to Mark Oglesby. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. Hey, yeah, my name is Mark Oglesby. I go by Marco. Grew up in Kansas City. I will debate anybody on KC Sports and Barbecue. But I moved to Nashville in '99, where I quickly kind of fell into a gig as a road manager for a called the Clark Family Experience at the time. And then, as you do in the music business, started to leapfrog, lily pad to lily pad. Really made my career with a band called One Republic. Was their tour manager for the last 14, 15 years. Throughout the time, I tour managed Pink's last tour. I've been able to work with Good Charlotte and Sum 41, Billy Currington and Jennifer Nettles, and now I'm out with an act called Kane Brown. Was a tour manager, and in fact, we're here today at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. gigging. So I'm in my production office. My road manager's across the desk from me. But I've been married 17 years with my wife for 20. Last year was new for us, spending time together, and not in a hotel or backstage. We have a 5-year-old son. So, I'm a dad of one, but as a tour manager, One Republic always said they thought I'd be a great dad just because I deal with spoiled children all day long. And now I have one of my own. He doesn't have the millions of dollars that I'm used to, the spoiled children having, but I'm working on that. So that's I'm an Aquarius. I just learned about astrological signs last night on the tour bus. So whatever that means.
Awesome. Thank you. And Melissa Snider, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hi there. My name is Melissa Snider. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I am married to a road man, Jeff Snyder. We've been married for 13 years, and he's been on tour and working and gigging ever since we were dating. So he's worked with Trans-Siberian Orchestra for the winter seasons and with the Kenny Chesney Camp in the summers, and then done some overseas with Metallica, and has been the tour manager for Joan Jett most recently. But he's out with TSO right now. So I have a lot of experience being the spouse of somebody who's gone in and out for the weekends and like leave a Wednesday, come back a Sunday, versus the TSO blackout of, months, 2-3 months. So hopefully I can bring some perspective to what balance can look like from the spouse's point of view.
Awesome. Thank you. Mandi Naylor, you're up.
Hi. I've been married going on, I think, 14 years to a very supportive spouse. I have 2 kids. Miles is 27. We have pictures all over the wall, as you can tell. She draws. I started as an intern for the CMA through Dennis, and then was a freelancer for about a year, and then got on actually with CMA as their live events coordinator for 5 years. It was a dream job and a great opportunity. In 2018, I thought I would try to freelance again and try to find my personal work-life balance. Started so I freelanced in 2019 and started with all the caboose, and some other things, and then of course COVID hit. Luckily, we made it through, and then started again in freelancing back in 2021. I've done everything from the Super Bowl with credentials, catering with the draft, Lollapalooza, ACL, Bonnaroo, Luke Bryan Farm Tour, Woolworth, helping with bar ops, and everything from production office to side ops to credentials. And I love it. Finally found a niche and found a way to hopefully find that balance with everything. So hopefully we can figure it all out. Nice
Awesome.
to meet everybody.
And last but not least, John Schirmer.
Thanks, Mark. I'm John Schermer. First and foremost, I'm a member of the board of directors for TCW, and I take that as a great honor and privilege, and it's fun to be here with you all today. In touring and balanced life, the way that I can equate this conversation is I toured on the road for about 20 years. Last 7 to 8 years, I've been in executive management. I was the former general manager for Morris Light and Sound. I'm the current general manager for DCR Nashville. I'm also the epitome of those who are searching for balance in their life at all times. Mark had mentioned early on when he introduced this panel, it's no longer sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Unfortunately, I was touring during those sex, drugs, and rock and roll times. I've been sober for 18 years, so my life is a constant journey for balance, but I'm doing a lot better than I ever have. I'm in my second marriage. My second marriage is a lot more successful than my first one because I have found that balance in life and touring. And so I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share my experience with y'all.
Excellent. Well, you know what? Mark mentioned something that is for a lot of people when COVID hit. So many touring side professionals spend a lot of time at home with their spouses for their first time. And how did that change? How was it different from what you expected it was going to be as the time progressed together? And we'll start with Mark since you brought it up.
The circumstances were obviously not desirable, right? Like,
No.
that was a tsunami that no one saw coming, and when that wave crested, holy crap! So aside from having to figure out when I am allowed to touch the dishwasher or the washing machine, and which plates I'm allowed to touch, it was the psychological battle that was also going on of how am I going to pay for my family to survive? I've only done this since I was 20 years old. I don't have anything to offer, let alone society was shut down. So I can't even get a job if I wanted to get one, so and to John's point, I myself am 7 years sober as well. I definitely took full advantage of all the offerings that the touring life presented itself prior in my former life. And so, I honestly, I'm thankful I was sober during this time because I would probably be dead if I wasn't having to deal with the last 18 months. One day at a time. I'm a runner. I replaced my addiction of alcohol with running. And so I run, I know, Mark, you run. I too run ultra marathons. So that to me keeps me centered. My son, my son's 5, I'm 43. So he and my wife, they were not, I always preached family and that they were everything, but it turns out by my actions, they were not. And so I have recalibrated, who I am and what I'm about and my fundamentals and my core. And so it all starts and it finishes with them. And, this is just a job. It's a job that I love and I'm very thankful that I have, and I'm very grateful for it. And it's a privilege to for a living, right? I mean, we just learned that. So now more than ever, I understand the, I understand the privilege, the platform that we have. And to your point about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, yeah, Grayson, my road manager in front of me, I'm out here preaching now, RRAs, IRAs, health insurance, real estate. And, like that's my I feel like this is my 2.0. And it starts with who I am at home, and I try to extend that over here into work.
Excellent. Melissa or Mandi, you want to jump in on this? Being home with the spouse for extended periods of time?
I can say something. I feel like it was a different time because there was a stress about how will I without doing this for me, because it's all I've ever known. But there were opportunities even through COVID that came up. I know that TSO made a pay-per-view event. They did some recording here, and he was able to do that. And then he worked doing the cinnamon roll gig. I don't know if you've heard about that. I can't remember his name, but some roadie started a cinnamon roll company and pop up. So he
Zito, yeah.
Yeah, Zito. He was working with Zito making cinnamon rolls for a while. But I mean, it was great. I thought it was great having him here. It was definitely different than before. Like when he would come off of a tour, he's home, and I'm thinking, okay, let's, time to unload the dishwasher. See, my husband, I want him to touch the dishwasher. But he would always be like, well, I just got back. I need to decompress. And like during this time, you didn't just get back. Like you're here. Like let's go. I think he's not used to the pace of home life. I feel like when he is actively touring, home life is more of a downtime for him, and instead of being like tour manager mode. He has to transition off of that when he gets home. But it was different. But I really did enjoy him being around. I'm glad we made it through it, though. It was a pretty stressful time. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It was definitely stressful with my husband does real estate. And so I had to stay out of the office, which is in upstairs, and keep the kids up, away from him. And usually my job is very so like all over the place. I don't have like a set schedule. So if I come home from a festival, he's like, don't come home, change the rules, so I have to kind of slowly embrace back into the mom role of not eating Lunchables every day and kind of pushing, getting back into the routine. But we were lucky we made it through COVID too, because we're home trying to serve, and definitely was a very hard challenge, but it also brought us closer together and made me realize how important life-work balance was, and how I needed to say no to gigs and yes to the gigs that were important to me, and to make it work, and not just say yes to every opportunity, and, know that there will be more opportunities, and make sure I make sure that this is the priority at home.
So that brings up another question for us, as we're talking about COVID and all of us coming back into our households, which is a little strange from the norm for who we typically are, right? So do you guys find, excuse me, do you guys find that you have an understanding with your children? Do they understand your job choices, the disappearances at periods of time? And then how do you communicate with them? Hey, Marco, you want to touch on that one?
Yeah, so my son is turning 6 in December. He's in kindergarten. And I was out with Pink in 17 and 18, and he was 18 months old at the time. My wife would come out, and it was horrible. I mean, horrible, because my wife, she said, she broke down. She's like, I mean, I'm your ride or die, but I can't do this. Like, I cannot travel across the country with a toddler, hotel after hotel, the food, just everything about it. And that's when so prior to COVID, I kind of saw like, I'm going to have to try to figure, the next phase out. And so fast forward, spending that last 18 months together, my son was by my side every single day, which was new to us. And now as we go back out, I made the decision when COVID hit that my son's going to see me struggle. He's going to know everything that's happening. I'm not going to hide this from him. We're going to be real. He's going to know the goods and bads. And so he knows, like he says every day. I mean, the other day this week, he broke down and was sobbing in my shoulder about how he misses me when I'm gone. And I mean, it's horrible, like hearing that. And I have to instill in him like, hey, buddy, you know why Papa has to leave, right? And he says, yes, you leave so we can eat and so we can have clothes, and so I don't want to put that on him, but I do want him to understand that, we all do have to work for a living. And this new gig that I'm in with Kane Brown, for example, it's weekend warrior, which I did find is a misnomer. We like to focus on the word weekend. We leave out the word warrior, and predicated with the word war, right? So it's exhausting, this weekend warrior gig, but I'm home. And so he knows, like, although I'm not home all the time, I'm at least home more. And I'm still struggling. I mean, Halloween is an example. I'm still struggling on not picking up the old habits of just, when I'm home, work. And that I'm still working through that. But this morning I set my alarm. I wake up, I call him when my wife's driving him to school. When he comes home, I make sure to FaceTime him right before he gets home. And that, waking up at 6:45 on the road when you went to bed at 3, that sucks. But it does, it sucks worse to miss that. I missed a phone call last week and I felt horrible for 12 hours, So I just have to make sure that I set my iPhone timer, and I try to be conscious about it.
Yeah,
I'll speak
Mandy,
to it
if I could add. Oh, go ahead, Mandy.
sorry,
if I could ask
John,
you a question. That's okay. Go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, are you sure? I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to add to that about the calls, and Jeff will say, like, I can't wait until I can come home and, fly a kite with you. For example, we were at the beach and they flew a kite together. So he'll talk about something they're going to do. And then we take pictures of the thing and they can remember it. And he puts it up and he puts a picture on his road case, and he'll FaceTime and show the picture on his road case to her. And then he often says, we talk about it like, if Daddy was a doctor, he would be home every night at 8 and you'd already be in bed. But I'm gone. But then when I'm home, I'm home. I'm home for a whole day. I'm home for a whole week. And we get to spend all that time together. So it's a different kind of job, but we probably get to spend even more quality time together if you just counted the hours. So he frames it out that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great way to approach it. That's the way that I've tried to do with my kids as well. And then, Mandy, I wanted to ask you a question. There's kind of this long history of dads going away to work, right? You kind of have that reverse role where mom is leaving. Is that any different for you with your kids?
Yeah, it definitely is different, and definitely hard. My 7-year-old's having a really hard time with it, for the fact that all of my festivals that I worked at, usually in the spring, got pushed to the fall. So I was gone a lot this fall, more than normal, more than I wanted to be. Because usually I love that whole I'm home for 2 weeks thing, and choose, instead of coming 7 at night and just being home for bath, homeworks, and bed. So it's definitely hard to, as a mom, having mom guilt. 2, when I am working festivals and talking to people, there's only 1 or 2 moms out there that are doing those back of the house gigs where I'm at. And it's definitely, 1, I have mom guilt on myself, and 2, that pressure from my husband, for him having to step up and be that comfort and be the extra role. And I think it's kind of cool, though, that he is so supportive and is supporting what my dream is and what I love to do. And he is, it's kind of cool to change that role and be like, a mom can have her dream, a mom can be a mom, and show my daughter what it's like to be a working career woman and have what you love to do. So I think it's definitely cool. There is times when my husband has called at 11 p.m. with a kid crying in the background and asking where the medicine is, and we're both like, I don't know. But he definitely has, I would say, stepped up as that mom and dad role. And it is stressful on him too. So that's why I definitely want to be more intent, more on purpose, pick things more on purpose, and be sure I schedule things out throughout the year. I call the two people I commit to work. I call them at the beginning of the year and say, what's on your calendar so far, before I do any add-on gigs or last minute gigs, so I can really be more intentional on my calendar. Because that's why I wanted to freelance, so I can pick what I want to do and stay at home when I want to stay at home. And it is such a different kind of role than an everyday 9 to 5. But I love it. And it makes me a better mom because I get to come home and I'm really home, and I get to cherish those times, like I turned down 3 Halloween gigs because Halloween's our thing, and so It's fun. And we did win the neighborhood house decorating contest, just to let everybody know. We started in September, so it looked really good. I put it all up before Bonnaroo. But you got to make those intentional decisions. And And I think life-work balance is different for everybody. Some people can have a great life-work balance from 9 to 5. Some people have it on the road, and I think it really works best for your family. I don't think it looks the same for anyone.
That's great.
You know, Mandi you just brought up a good point. Something that I'm seeing as well is that people are being more, at least for me, I'm seeing more techs being selective on gigs, and it's not just any gig and I'm going to go do it. It is, like you said, I don't want to go during Halloween. I have a family. I want to go trick or treating with my kids. I mean, so to John and to Mark, are you guys seeing that as you're trying to bring crew on? Are you seeing a little more selectivity with crews, which is, again, it's not just about the party, not just about going to do the gig. It's being available and being healthy within themselves. Are you guys seeing that at all as well?
Yeah, I think so. You know, a lot of this particular panel that we're on here is focused around family, which is a good thing, right? Because it's something that we don't often talk about. Our endeavors are quite selfish in the way that we go about them, but we're starting to grow out of that, especially this panel here. So, you know, and I think Mark S., you know, like you could probably confirm this as well. A lot of the crew members that we're after are kind of in the younger age group who aren't necessarily in the same spot that we all are right now. So there are some different challenges we're seeing. You know, I'm not really seeing the individuals who are trying to make time to make sure that they find that balance with their family life. But I will say that coming out of COVID, there is an overarching responsibility that people feel towards themselves to make sure that they're choosing the right things, whether it's something that's going to be financially stable for them or something that's going to provide them with the kind of the responsibility and the acknowledgement of what they're after in their own careers. You know, it's no longer do we see the guys who are just kind of coming around and they want to be a part of something and they're not sure what they want to do, but they're willing to go out on the tour and take peanuts to go and do it. People are putting a lot of thought and effort into how they want to get involved and what that means to them for the long term. Marco, would you say it's similar to you or slightly different?
Yeah, I mean, if those of you on the panels, you know, if you've been touring at all this year, you know there is a massive shortage of qualified labor, skilled labor, down to the locals, you know, level. And I think a large part is because of what you're saying. I know I called guys, you know, Jake Berry guys, like guys that are, you know, the A-level go-to guy. You call them and it's like, dude, I'm good. Like, what do you mean you're good? Like, I'll figure it out, but I'm not just in leaving right now. You know, guys like lifers that you just would never see that coming. Yeah. And I know even myself personally, there's certain times where it's like, man, you know, like you just have to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing, you know, because after that 18 months of being home, it's like, it turns out working 20 hours a day is tough, you know?
Yeah, so you know, I think that also brings up another good question. Like we are all inspired in our career choices. It takes a lot of inspiration for us to choose this path, and it takes a lot of dedication. You go through a lot of hardships and such. Would you say that? And this question is for all of you. Would you say that coming out of COVID, that you're still as inspired as you were from the day you started this?
I think I have been. I think inspired as I missed work. I missed the festivals. I missed making people enjoy music and love music. And I feel like I was definitely still inspired to do it. More, like I said earlier, intentional on what I chose to do. But when I was there, I was like, oh, I miss it. But then it was like a little bit of maybe was, oh, but I really miss home because I was home for so long. So yeah, I was inspired for sure, but also inspired for home more. And something I always felt guilty about was, you know, not missing home. Like I miss my kids, but you know, when you're like, go, 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 sometimes you just don't think about it. And I think I was more, they were in front of my head more than normal. Definitely still inspired, but definitely different train of thought. You know, I definitely had young ladies who were in the industry and in the festival part of the industry who would talk to me about life work balance and how they have trouble just with a group of friends at home and they're asking how I did it. And so I feel like even the young kids, like you were talking about, early young kids are having trouble. I think still being used to being at home for so long, having trouble finding their balance too, but for sure. a different inspire, I think is what I was trying to say.
And then, Melissa, if I could ask you a quick question kind of on the same topic, like obviously the inspiration wasn't for you to go on tour, but when you and your husband first started dating, did you have some real concerns about the future of your relationship and what that might look like? And if so, how did you work through that together?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I started dating him, I knew that this was his job. And I mean, it was pretty fun as a single person. And I think I'm just a really independent person as an individual. So it really didn't scare me off thinking of having to figure that out. And I think he had friends. I'm thinking of one particular couple that had kids, and I would go visit him for like TSO Christmas dinner, and I would see the other young moms and talk with them, and I just kind of saw that as my future, and I felt up for the challenge, but obviously you don't experience it until you're in it. So I really wasn't too concerned about it. But we had gone through some marriage stuff, and all the people were saying to me, well, it's because he's on tour. It's because he's gone. That's why you guys are really struggling. And I remember one guy said to him once, like, are you going to listen to me? If she says, don't go, don't go. And he asked me, can I go on this tour? And I said, no. And he didn't. He stayed home. He was home for 6 months, and we were going to work on our marriage. Well, guess what? It did not make it any better. And I feel like at the end of that season, I realized that it's not the road that is the problem. I don't think we've worked it out in a different way, and I fully supported him going back on the road because I feel like that job makes him a better man. It's what he's good at. Guys need to do things, or women need to do things that they feel passionate about, and that gives them the life force that they need. And so I'm behind him 110% now. And when anybody ever says to me, "Well, it's because he's on the road," it's really not. It's us. Yeah. It's not the road. So I really was able to eliminate that is like the core of what the issue is, because I found out it wasn't. And so I'm really happy that he's doing something that's going to make him feel fulfilled. And even today on the phone, he said, Melissa, the household is a lot to manage. You're earning this paycheck just like I am. Like, we're sharing it. And I'm like, yes. But it was good to hear,
It's funny you talked about managing. Go for it, Mark. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, for myself, I now realize how, the first part of my career was, to your point, John, a selfish endeavor. I mean, it was, and I posted a lot about this on social media during the downtime, but, it was new country, new hotel, new restaurant, get my miles, my air miles, my points, my status, bragging rights. I can check in here, do this. And then you look back and it was awesome. But now the 2.0 is, for me personally, it's I now am viewing my opportunity of how can I help these new, this new crop of talent coming up, artists down to crew, and how can I contribute and rub off on them that they can be better husbands, better wives, better spouses, better parents, better employees, and try to figure out that balance. And I preach it out here a lot of just, guys, I've messed up a lot, and if I may so say so, I would not suggest going down that bridge. I've already been on that bridge. It ain't good. There's alligators in that water, so I'm looking at it as, if I'm going to be gone for my family now, yes, it's so I can make money, and yes, I have to buy stuff for my pool, but it's really because if I'm going to be gone, I'm going to make it count. Every single minute I'm here, I'm going to contribute to the positive side of the ledger in someone's life. And that might be the lady outside my office doing local security. I don't know who it is, but it starts with a smile.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think, I think it's interesting to kind of perceive our endeavors moving forward as these acts of service, right? Because if you do think back to it and you look at it when we were younger and we were traveling the world and we were taking the photos and we're sharing the photos and we're telling everybody how cool it is that we're in Germany or in Amsterdam or we're in India, we're in China or so on, it's really self-serving to us, right? Look how cool this is, how great this is. But when you're trying to find balance with the person in a relationship, that's not helping. That's not really bringing you closer together. It's adding more distance between each other, because then someone like Melissa's situation, she's sitting there at home and she's working her job and she's with the kids, and you're kind of almost rubbing it in, right? But I think when you approach things today, like Marco was saying, where you you're kind of providing this service where you're helping individuals grow and find success and find areas to create balance in their own lives. There's kind of a different motivation to being out there on the road. It is where we create money. It's difficult for us to say, I'm going to go do something else because I don't know what else that would be. This is what I've been doing my whole life. But if I could take that opportunity and I can turn it into something that is providing service for others and helping them grow, I think it provides a little bit of a different balance in the family dynamic than the old selfish endeavors that we pursued.
I just want to take a second, and Patrick, thanks for the question. That is a long and that's a different topic. How do I get on tour? That's a whole nother discussion. That is, reach out to some companies and start having some conversations, and you'll get some answers there for sure. I want to take a second and move away from the family part of it and get a little more personal in the sense of just within yourself. Mark and John both mentioned their struggles with substance abuse and things like that. I fell into my midlife crisis and became that runner person and that active person. What are people doing to better themselves physically, mentally, emotionally? Like Mark, what are you seeing on tour from crew? Mandi, what are you seeing on the festivals? And Melissa, like what is your husband doing? When he's on the road, does he do things to take care of himself physically and mentally and all of that benefits the family down the line? If somebody wants to jump in there, we'll put Mandi on the spot first on that one.
Sure. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I have started therapy, and there's no shame in that. I have some personal stuff going on that trying to better myself. It's okay. What addiction to food and different things like that going on, and finding an inner what makes me happy inside. And I think COVID really, I noticed it when I wasn't working, and sought out help to my husband first, and he is amazing. And if anyone is questioning it or trying to not find, lost in their world or in a deep place, therapy has been a life changer for me over this past year. And it's just a Zoom therapy, and because you couldn't really go to the office when I started it, and being at home is the best thing for me personally, because I was able to see something that I was doing and didn't realize I was doing, binge eating. And so getting real personal here, sorry. But just like Go said, being sober and it's amazing for you guys. And I had a different addiction, and seeking out help for me and being home with COVID and seeing what I was doing, therapy, hands down, was the best decision I ever made. And I talked to a lot of people when I was working this year at the festivals, just not being ashamed to say, hey, I'm in therapy. And there's a lot of young ladies I was working with and a lot of young gentlemen who were seeking out help. And because of COVID, because they were at home and they were lost and didn't know what to do. And that's why I think the TCW is amazing, and there's so many opportunities for you to find, and there is no shame in talking about it or doing it. And so for me, that was one thing. And then taking walks with my family. I hurt my foot a couple years ago and haven't been able to run. That's how I met Mark. I haven't been able to run, and just trying to find some kind of activity with your family and things to do. And so just finding that outlet for yourself and beating that boredom and beating at home, and just open book, I guess. So that was it. So that was a huge help for me.
Mark, do you have anything there?
Yeah, to your point, I will say, my mom died in 2018, and that was definitely the most challenging thing I've been through. However, and I'm vocal about this, getting sober I did not go to a 12-step program. And getting sober on my own was absolutely the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I've ran 50 miles or more on multiple occasions. And I'm good now, but my God, it was so hard. Whether it's my friends didn't understand, it was you don't have a problem, whatever. It was really freaking difficult. And so I had to find something else to replace that with. I don't mean to get off topic, but So for me to stay healthy, I am a runner. That's kind of who I am. In fact, our lighting designer last night, who is a young child of 21, texted me and said, "Would you like to go running in the morning?" And the initial answer was no, I am exhausted. But the answer that I replied to was yes. And we ran through DC this morning, and it was just awesome. And just a chance to get to talk to this kid who I'm old enough to be his father, and it's a cool bonding moment between tour manager and lighting designer. Getting to talk and just get to know each other on a better level. And so for me as a tour manager, I like doing that. But I think just practices in general, I have noticed too, this is kind of my first weekend warrior gig, like full time. And so I also think addiction, to your point, it does oftentimes, like us alcoholics or drug addicts get to take the credit for addiction, but there's obviously multiple ways that it will show itself. And I think out here on the road on the weekend warrior stuff, it's more difficult to say be a heroin addict because you're only doing 3 gigs or 2 gigs and you go home, as opposed to like when you're 9 solid months, you can shore up in a hotel room and disappear from it. It's just a different thing. There's certainly booze flowing and stuff like that, but we're on a healthy camp. And back to what we talked about earlier, it's a lot younger people out here now. And so it's a different thing. I mean, and Mark, you said it, like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's like, it's just, that's not really this generation's thing so much. I think the addiction out here would be the freaking iPhones, if you ask me. But and also the COVID, we are very strict on our COVID policy and our COVID regulations, and so we're not going out. Nobody's going out to the bars, and we're freaking exhausted. I mean, it's we're packing up the last truck at 1:30 in the morning, and we're chalking at 6. So nobody's got time to be boozing up or doing things like that. So it's a different time, man. It's a different era.
Awesome.
And
Melissa, same question to you.
Yeah, well, Jeff is a runner also. So that has really been where he goes. He says he follows you on Strava, Mark O, I think. I don't know. He's friends with
awesome.
on Strava. But that has been his therapy, and especially during this COVID time, because they have to wear masks. They're supposed to wear masks even on the bus. The only time you're supposed to take it off is if you're sleeping. It's just crazy. So he's like, on my off days when I can run with like the mask off, fresh air, it just is life-giving to me, because they're not even supposed to leave their hotels on a day off, or eat together. They're supposed to just get taken. But he definitely runs, and every city he goes in, he knows the path, he knows the trail. He feels like that really helps him. And the nutrition, he brings his like NutriBullet blender with him everywhere he goes in his case, and he blends up, green tea and spinach smoothies. He likes to eat healthy stuff, And he also is in recovery, and he's got a recovery plan for when he's on the road, and he's got a recovery plan when he's off the road, on home. So he does like distance meetings. He does phone-in meetings for the program he's in, and he stays connected that way. So it seems like there's a lot of people in recovery in the touring industry now, but he stays connected with his sponsor and works his program during his road time, which I don't really know all the details about that because I stay on my paper with that, but it keeps him pretty much in line.
Yeah, if I can interject real fast, like 18 years ago when I got sober, I was faced with the realization of, did I want to continue this pursuit of following my music dreams and going back on tour? And I kind of quickly realized that the only way for me to find balance was to go back out on the road and to live that life and to live that dream that I had. And if I didn't do that, I was going to be doing a massive disservice to myself. What I found that created further balance for me as I began that touring journey again was that my journey in sobriety was also very helpful and open to the others that I was on tour with. And so I found myself in a lot of late night discussions on the bus talking about people who were struggling with alcohol or addiction, or family members that were struggling with that alcohol and addiction. And it helped me ingrain myself back into that world and feel comfortable in that world. And I didn't have to feel so alone. I thought, well, I'm going to feel alone. I mean, I came off of these hard rock tours and these metal tours where heroin and cocaine were the biggest things, but I found a different path, and I found different artists to work with. And I found that sobriety was a big part of a lot of these tours. And there's a bunch of people who, once they can find community within each other, can support each other and share in that community. And so for the last 18 years, that's been really helpful for me and hopeful for me, and something that I'm always willing to share with others because it keeps me grounded, it keeps me sober. And like we're doing here today with this journey of touring and life balance, I think that's really important for everybody.
There's people that have spent a lot of years in the industry that have the mindset of John and Mark and Mandi and Melissa and growing and involving family and all of that. But there are still a definite number of the old school road dogs, as it were, out there. Not necessarily so much the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but the do anything. I'm not going to go to the doctor. I've got to do this gig. Or how dare you? More to the point, how dare you go to the doctor? You should be in prepping a show. For anyone that's out there that is running across some of that, if you ever run across that, there are people that have spent a lot of time out there, and that mindset is going away. So don't get discouraged when you run into that. We do want most of the people want the younger people coming into the industry to take care of themselves. And like Mark said, don't make the same mistakes we did. There's alligators over there. So has anyone run into any of that from an older generation to a younger generation on a crew, on a gig, where it's caused some issues? Or just me? Am I the only one?
No. If I could touch on that really fast, I think that's a really relevant point, right? Like I mentioned that I'm in my second marriage. My first marriage failed because I didn't take off for holidays and for birthdays and anniversaries, and I missed funerals and I missed all of the things that families do together. I didn't attend any of those things because the generation that I grew up in instilled the fear in me that if I left, I had nothing to come back to, right? And I think as leaders of these organizations and leaders of these tours, Marco, you could talk to this, and Mark, you could talk to this as well. I think we're trying to change that. It's important for me as a general manager of DCR for my employees to understand that their lives and their families are most important over anything else, right? And there's going to be times where there's challenges against that kind of stuff, where we might have things that are going on, but we always want to work towards allowing people to go to the funeral of their grandfather or the birth of their daughter, or the 10th anniversary of their marriage, and not miss those opportunities. Because looking back on it, for me, that lack of imbalance, or that imbalance, I should say, had some pretty massive holes that I had to fill over the last 20 years or so, and trying to reestablish friendships and relationships and things like that, because I didn't have them when I walked away. So I think, I think that's changing. And I think the leaders that are on this panel would probably agree. Like we want that for the people who are, and the kids who are coming into this industry now.
Definitely.
I've definitely noticed it in the festival world, that it is made probably a little easier because there's so many people back at house and so many people in different production and operation roles, but definitely encouraging if there's something going on to go home. That is something I've noticed over the past couple of years being a freelancer, that it's very encouraging. Like, you okay? You need to go to the doctor. What happened to your mom? Why are you upset? Like, you need to go home. We can do this without you. We want you here. We need you here, but family's first. And that's something I've noticed with the people that I've been working with. So I think it is encouraging that it is something that people are pushing for the younger generation.
I think society too overall. I mean, you look at, whether it's Harvey Weinstein or, stuff that's in the news today. I think just society in general, I think the gig is up in terms of, we've all now seen The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. We all now realize what the holistic thing is all about. And, there's people were burning stuff in the streets 12 months ago. Like, the 1% having this and the 99% not, that business model is changing, not just in our industry, right? Like overall. And the young people coming up today don't have the same aspirations that, I mean, all of us are contemporaries, I think, on this call at least. And I don't, to me, it doesn't feel like they have the same desires that we have, like buying homes is different now. A lot of people don't even care about that. People don't even own cars now. They do ride sharing, and we're just in a totally different place with society overall. And so I can't remember who mentioned it earlier, but I mean, how many times have we gone to work with the flu, like, or a broken bone or whatever it is? Forget mental health. That was taboo. You're weak sauce. Get out of here. We don't need that. And so I am finding as I come back that I would say by and large, the level of compassion has changed. I think that those questions that you're saying are now being asked more. From time to time, you still see some people who, don't seem to have gotten there. But I think most people are becoming more sensitive to just the plight of their neighbor and the plight of what we're dealing with as a whole, not just in our industry. But and losing, let's be real, guys. All of us on this call last year, even if you worked for a giant corporation, we as an industry, we got screwed, right? There was no one here to save us. The government doesn't know we exist. Our neighbors don't realize what we do. They see us check in at some fancy restaurant in a foreign city and think we've got the life. It is a great life. But when the rubber met the road and we needed society, it wasn't there for us. And I'm not blaming that or pointing fingers, but we all now understand, like this is, we're kind of on an island. And so I think there's this sense of camaraderie now where it's like we're survivors, and it's like we've got to, you and I may disagree on something, but there's a bigger picture here, and we got to keep this industry going. We have all got to chip in and shoulder to shoulder and do the heavy lifting here so that we can keep this thing on the tracks. Because I'll tell you right now, being out here on the road, we're not in a good state. Like, the industry is got some problems. And so we've got to do our best as collectively to stay together. And that's why I think the Touring Career Workshop thing is such a big deal. I'm sorry to get on my soapbox there, but I just, I think we're heading in the right direction, but we've really, the hard work is still to come. I think we still have to keep pushing and still have to keep moving forward about those mental health discussions and just having compassion on your fellow human, let alone employee. We're all people, right? We're all people.
Exactly. So we had a question from Riley. We've talked a lot about relationships with spouses and significant others, but friendship and platonic relationships in some ways can be even harder. So you're coming home from a run and you have your family that you are concerned about, obviously, and want to spend time with, but how do you develop friendships outside the industry and maintain them on top of touring, on top of your family? I'll go to Mandi on that one.
Well, hi. I'm lucky. My friendships have changed throughout the years. I feel like as you get older, your friendships get more meaningful. I think the way I have done it is I have found a group of friends that live in my neighborhood. I love my industry family, but we are family on site, and then we go home to our lives. I don't hang out with anyone that I work with outside of work. But I have great friends who live in my neighborhood, who have kids, and we without the kids and with the kids. And we have every third Saturday, there's a poker game in the neighborhood. We trick or treat together, we swim together. And those people understand when I'm like, hey, I'm just home for the weekend, or I'm just home for a few days. They understand that my time is to my family, and they understand when I have time for them, they get it. And then it's a meaningful time. It's a meaningful hangout. And as you get older, I feel like those friendships get more meaningful and more intentional. And I'm lucky that I have found that in my almost 40 years coming soon. And I think that's how I stayed connected. And when we hang out, it's intentional. We have something, we're just really talking, catching up, and you make it intentional. And I think with being on the road, with traveling, with working hard, owning a business, I think anything you do has to be intentional. And if you don't give it that intention, give it that what it needs, then it's not going to be meaningful or intentional. So I feel like to make those work, you had to put in the effort too. And no matter how tired you are, you have to get up and go and do those things. You understand when you are home for a short period of time that family is first. But I make it intentional to walk down and see my friends and talk with them and be with them and be there and working on putting my phone down and not worrying about what's going on elsewhere. And that's how I can maintain and develop meaningful friendships. And it grows as you get older. You mature as a friend, not only as a person. So
Melissa, you had mentioned earlier about how you and Jeff kind of use technology a little bit and use the communication between him and you and the kids in that same vein as family. How do you guys manage that as far as your friendships go?
Well, for example, we are members of a church. Usually I'm at church on Sundays with the kids. I'm like a single mom, but we host a small group at our house, and we have this device called a portal. And I recommend it for road families because it's instead of FaceTiming where you have to move the phone for everyone to see you, this follows you and you can just be eating dinner and it will follow you around and we can have Jeff there. So he portals in for our discussion for small group from the road. And I'll have, my parents over or friends will be here for dinner and Jeff will portal in and he's just like on the portal. Even our neighbors were having like cake. I love to bake and we're friends with the neighbors. Connor, hey Jeff, what's going on? Like go talk to the portal. And Jeff is there. It works through Facebook Messenger. So you just, it's like an Alexa, call Jeff portal. And so we really utilize that. And then I don't know about Jeff and his friendships. I know it is a strain. It's a strain on his friendships, but when he can, like he connects with old friends in different cities and he invites people to shows. He told me like it's all about being intentional because if you're not intentionally planning to call people once a week or stay connected, it just falls by the wayside. It takes a lot of intentionality. That's what he told me before I got on this call. I'm like, work-life balance, what do you do? And he's like, you got to really be intentional about it or it just falls to the side. So
Yeah, I think technology gives us an opportunity to stay more connected with friends and family than ever before. When I was touring, it was photographs, and you had to wait for those photographs to get printed. You shared them with everybody, and that really didn't make the connection that you had hoped that it would. But I think now, like with opportunities like FaceTime and stuff, it's kind of easy to go sit on the edge of the Grand Canyon and dial somebody in and actually be together with each other and have a conversation and share those experiences. We talked earlier about how it was kind of selfish. We're like, look how cool this is and how great this is and where I am and so on. But with technology now, we're able to bring those people into our lives and share those moments with them. And then I think when you come home, you have something to kind of to talk about and something to reminisce about. Like, hey, remember when we sat on the edge of the Grand Canyon and we watched the sunset and we were on Facebook together and stuff like that. I think technology really makes it a lot easier to keep us connected. At least that's the hope, right, with all these technology providers. But I think it does work. I mean, it's great that 5 of us are sitting here on this panel through technology and sharing our experiences with others. We just have to find a way to do it with the ones who care about our lives and that we care about theirs as well.
Can I share one more technology resource Jeff and I have been using this season? It's called Marco Polo. It's an app. Not that you need another app, but you take these video messages of yourself. And usually when Jeff wants to talk to me, I'm busy. And when I want to talk to him and process something, he's busy. So I'm like, mother of a, I need to process this. So I'll open up Marco Polo and be like, Jeff, this happened. Da, 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 da. And then it's just waiting there for him to listen to it when he can. And actually, he's been Marco Poloing me a poem every morning this time since he's been gone, because I'm like, I want to connect over something meaningful. And so he'll read a poem to me that he's found. And then later in the day when I can listen, I'll listen and we'll talk through Marco Polo that way. And it's been great.
Yeah, that is really great. That's good advice. So we're down to the last 5 minutes of this panel, and we're certainly grateful that all of you guys have joined us. I think what would be really great before we close is if maybe each of us or each of you guys shared maybe your top 3 ways that you're keeping balance in your touring life and your home life, and small bits of advice that you can share with the viewers of this panel today. Melissa, you want to start with you?
Sure. I think using the technology, using the Marco Polo, sending him pictures, and being intentional about spending time together in whatever way we can.
Mandi?
I think self-care, we forget about ourselves, especially as a mom, sometimes. I think self-care is one. I also have something cool I do, which was my therapist's idea. I have intentional rest time. So when I come home from the road and I'm exhausted, working 20 hours a week, and I just want to lay down, I tell my kids, I tell my husband, hey, I'm having an intentional rest half a day. Don't bother me for 4 hours. But then once that timer goes off, I get up and then I'm there, right? And I'm not just laying on the couch all day. I'm not tired. And that was something really cool that we talked about and did together. So I think self-care, intentional rest time, and then and another, just to be intentional with all your things you do. I talked about, I think we support a lot, intentional friendship, intentional meet do with your children, and like when you're home, be home and be focused. And like I think someone said about phone addiction, it's definitely difficult not to be on the TikTok and doing all these things. So I think just being intentional was number one for sure.
How about you, Marco?
Well, I would definitely echo everything he said. And one thing I intentionally started doing was we do like a date day where we've been together 20 years, but I realized like, man, I mean, she's my best friend, but like we don't really date anymore. And so once a week now we'll go out to lunch, and it's just, I can tell it changes the dynamic. It's awesome. And then I make an effort to take my son to school every day. And for people that don't have children, that obviously doesn't matter. But for me, that's a big deal because that's a time we can spend in the car talking and shooting the breeze. And then I like to try to live out without my outside of myself and find whether it's a non-for-profit or if it's a local situation. Like for example, we will collect bathroom goods from a hotel that we have on tour. You're talking 60, 70 rooms, and we'll deliver those. I'll have a local rep. Those will go delivered somewhere. And so by doing that, it causes all of us to draw their attention off the fact that like, oh man, this is a crappy day, to like, dude, somebody else has it a whole lot worse than I do, that they need a bar of soap, so trying to just find ways that I can help, the community so that it really takes the attention from me and puts it on somebody else.
Great.
Well,
So go ahead, Mark.
no, it's been some awesome stuff. We got about a minute left, so I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and joining us today, and for those people that logged on to watch. And thank you all for coming out. And I'll turn it over to John to close it out here for the last minute, since you had something you were about to say.
Yeah. The last thing I just wanted to add is, we talked about some difficult subject matter today, some things that we've all worked through, we've all processed through. One of the things that I want to mention to those that are watching live today or who may watch it pre-recorded on YouTube later on, that Touring Career Workshop does offer a program that's called the All Access Program. The All Access Program is something that we're very passionate about. It is an anonymous program for users of Touring Career Workshop, where you can actually reach out to us and we will put you in contact with a counselor that can help you with your issues, somebody you can talk to that nobody will know about, and we will actually pay for the first 3 sessions of that time together. So there's no questions asked, nobody knows that you're involved, and you get through uninterrupted hour-long sessions with a network of providers that we have a connection with. So please join us, and we hope that you make use of the programs that we have available to you. And thank you guys very much for being a part of this. You guys are fantastic, and we couldn't have done it without you.